What is even going on? Ugh. Welcome back to ARTV, everyone. My name is John, and it's time to review the long-delayed 7th album, You're Welcome, by the rock, metalcore, or maybe now pop band A Day to Remember. They're one of the only scene bands that built their foundations in the MySpace era and actually lifted their sails strongly to move way past that. Their career is filled with solid or even great albums, from Homesick to the magnum opus Common Courtesy, and while Bad Vibrations was a tad forgettable, holy shit, I missed 2016 so bad, we didn't know how good we had it. Come on, A Day to Remember. You guys know you've been pushing off the inevitable for far too long. You can take 2 years, say the album art took you 6 months to finish, maybe you're in post-production for 16 months, whatever, but this isn't just any review, this is rock gone wrong. The ultimate date with disaster for ill-fated albums that go off the rails like a train exploding as it falls off a canyon. Normally I cap it at hearing 2 singles before an album drops. I'm not out here trying to spoil the entire experience, but I admit to having 0 expectations for this. So every time they dropped the single, I hit play out of some sort of morbid desire to see if it could really get any worse. And yes, indeed it can, because I was ripping my hair out by the time they lit the shitbag that is everything we need on fire and left it on our porch. I don't think they could have made this album rollout process more confusing or off-putting if they tried. Sometimes it felt like they actively were trying to throw the fans a middle finger in their face with not only the forever and a day waiting game, but the bland inconsistency of every little thing they were doing. To say you'd have to be open-minded to really understand this album is like saying you gotta slam your fingers in the car door to get the thing to start. Everything about You're Welcome screams no thank you at the top of its lungs. The production abysmal, the other band members hardly a factor, the songwriting even worse, and trust me, we'll go there. I know I've said some brutally honest stuff so far, but hear me out. If you've ever been a fan of this band, I could see why you'd want to go easier on them, and I get that you want to show the boys your support, but are we really gonna let them pass off this stack of shit as acceptable? I feel like some of y'all really be out here with a can of Febreze in the middle of a truck stop bathroom pretending you can't smell a damn thing.
I don't smell anything.
Pa, what do you smell?
Nothing.
Imagine driving through the desert with a road map that has little X's marked off its seemingly random locations. There's no real way to tell you how to get there, you just have to hit them as you go. I can only imagine that's what the band and their team did while making You're Welcome. Like, there had to have been a quota for exactly how many piss-poor, millennial whooping what-ohs they tossed into the track list, right? It's like an audio engineer was actively trying to sabotage the mix by layering ungodly backing or gang vocals on top of Jeremy's already questionable leads, or by turning the guitars into useless mud while some programmed loop pierces our skulls to the point of delirium. Evolution as a unit is 100% necessary. If you're only sticking to your guns and never trying anything new, you'll get mocked as the second coming of Imagine Dragons, which, would you look at that, segues me beautifully into my point about this album sounding like the unflattering older step-cousin of the band, except it's even worse because it's someone that you thought you knew, but then you didn't see them for 5 years and then they show back up wasted, whining about problems that sound like they should have been problems in college, not when you're approaching 40. This isn't a bad album because it's not heavy, metalcore, or even because it's not really a rock album at all. It's bad because there's barely even an ounce of authenticity to be found on You're Welcome as it slowly limps to the finish line, carrying a torch for all of these failed pop experiments and flat out stupid topics that I can't be bothered to give a fuck about because they sound so out of touch. Listen to it a few times and then tell me with a straight face that these lyrics don't sound like they were written by someone else, or that Jeremy doesn't sound ridiculous when he tries out that fake country accent on some of the album's most hilariously dreadful moments. Might as well break out the vacuum and go to town, because they sucked up every trace of originality, put it through a processor, and spat back out the product we're stuck with now, which, might I add, the product that took you almost 2 years to get out in the world. It's fucking embarrassing. One of the biggest disorders they're facing is an identity crisis spread out over 14 songs. Each one different from the last, yet kind of the same, because they have horrible production and weak lyrics about nothing at all, because they're so paper thin and generic. Take the opener Brick Wall, for example, because I'm chomping at the bit to start singling out the sinners. That song feels like they're trying to appease 4/4 of the fandom all at once, yet they satisfy no one since it's such a boring slog to get through. Get used to that feeling though, because if I said all of that about Brick Wall, and now I'm gonna tell you it's one of the more tolerable cuts on the album, God save the Queen, buckle up and say your prayers, and hope the fuck Chevelle were right when they said nothing is real and this is a simulation. Things glitch unbearably hard on the first non-single Bloodsucker. If you thought they'd swam into whiny waters before, put that thought to bed, because this hits like the soundtrack to a dying career falling ass first into a coffin. Instant millennial whoops berate the eardrum, calling to mind that not so pleasant feeling of it burning really bad when you pee and you think something's seriously wrong, so maybe you should call a doctor, or else a car commercial just waiting to happen. The sterile guitars sound so watered down against that obnoxious beat, but honestly, they're innocent bystanders compared to what's waiting on that agonizing hook. It's just, whoa, and some bullshit lyrics about being a leech. There's two songs with money in the title, and much like a top 40 mindset would expect, they have nothing to do with each other and actively negate the message of the other. F.Y.M is an acronym for, I shit you not, fuck you money, as in the band are excited to finally be getting some fuck you money as they signed with Fueled by Ramen and then pretend to be a struggling band barely getting by during the pandemic as they cash in on every possible merch opportunity known to man. It's so bad, I don't even know what else to say. It's painful. I feel like I'm cringing on their behalf because how many yes men did you have to surround yourselves with to make you think that this didn't sound like a camel's asshole? Repetition is something we have to dive deeper into if I'm gonna cover all the bases with their 7th album. I know that some work had to have gone into making this for it to have taken as long as it did, but I'll be damned if I don't hear the fruit of their labor, like, at all. Your Welcome runs in circles like a puppy chasing its tail before slamming into a wall and seeing stars, almost literally, because the electronic grind on Resentment sounds like I see stars, but also metaphorically, as each member just seems content to just copy and paste their low-effort parts, while Jeremy jumbles together a string of generic, meaningless words and passes them off as if it's a step forward for a day to remember. Degenerates ushered in this era, waving one of the biggest red flags I've ever seen in my life. This was the bar they wanted to set with the lead single? I guess they didn't pull any punches since they basically put up a caution. Wet Floor signed 2 years ago, yet here I am, falling and busting my ass just the same over this insipid campfire tune that sounds like it was produced by Ryan Tedder or someone equally as lamestream. Allow me to pull the curtain back for just a minute. I wanted to say that some of these songs do have solid enough blueprints here and there, but much like that 1975 album last year, it's like someone in control always found a way to ruin it or make the mix fall flatter than an expired soda. I came into this hoping that they'd somehow pushed out the worst moments first, that my inner monologue would be wrong, yet here we are in the thick of it, taking swings at virtually every aspect of the record. Yet part of me still hears a band that wanted this to be something else. Was it the label? Was it the band? They're gonna deny the label thing and say they wanted to just try new things as a band, just like every other boring-ass rock gone pop story, but they obviously tried on a few of these. My favorite song on the album might come as a shocker, but it's Looks Like Hell. I can't say I love or even really like the song fully because the first verse is a cringe fest, from the programming to the horrible vocal delivery that features Jeremy attempting to, I guess, flow? Whatever the hell it was, it doesn't sound good, and neither does that overly loud piano loop, at least not until the chorus lands and it's buried lower in the mix. Something changes in intervals, so I'm actually really enjoying the western vibe from the stern guitar in the chorus, and Jeremy sounds like a different man there, and in the post-chorus. Hell, even the bridge of the song sounds great. It's one of the only moments where you can breathe in the air around you, and it actually feels like a new but still enjoyable version of this band. Compliments are already running thin, but credit where it's due. I don't hate the instrumental for Resentment, although I know they can do an angry sound so much better, and Bad Friend, Last Chance to Dance, don't even get me started on the juvenile lyrics. I know there's a lot of cheese in there, but for what it's worth, the band do sound a lot more in their zone on this heavy track that features some cutting metal riffs and a smoking gun performance vocally. It's not anywhere close to their best, but again, the bar is so low, I have to point it out when they do clear it. Now to get back on our bullshit, there's still a decent amount of songs that blow it out the ass that I haven't talked about, so I guess I should try to mop that up a bit before I wrap up up the video? Let's make this quick. Viva La Mexico is extremely weird and has one of the worst pre-choruses I've ever heard. It actively invites you and tempts you to press that skip button with those insufferable gang vocals. Only Money is that other song I mentioned with money in the title that now seems to be taking on generic family cliches like Mama Said to shit out an entire song that's somehow supposed to be relatable. Re-Entry feels like the mutated inbred spawn of Against Me's Thrash Unreal meets The Adventure by Angels and Airwaves, and High Diving steals every godforsaken coming-of-age cliche in the book and spins them to make it... No, I'm just kidding. They don't put any spin on it at all. It's just there, the end. Hope you love going nowhere, because that's the exact kind of progression they'll deal you in spades. Fuck, I hated this album so much. There's so little to like and definitely nothing to even come close to loving. I'm not entirely sure who to blame, but I'd say everyone, because you can't just put this on the label. At the end of the day, A Day to Remember made the decision to sign the contract with Fueled by Ramen anyways. It's their career, let them tarnish the legacy however they like. Rock Gone Wrong is up past its bedtime, so let's just cut it off there. I'm feeling a 1 out of 5 for this thing. It's more generic than I could have ever imagined it'd be, plus the vocal filtering, nauseating repetition, and homogenized production make it sound worse and worse the closer you pay attention. But hey, maybe if you squint your ears really hard while running your garbage disposal simultaneously, it'll sound like the best thing ever. You're welcome! Hey, they sounded passive-aggressive with that stupid album title, and I made a review that's heavier than anything they made on the album. Let's just call it even. It is all just my opinion after all, so whether you hated it, didn't care, or loved everything, let me know in the comments and tap that like button on your way out. Click here to see my review of their classic album Homesick, or revisit my thoughts on Bad Vibrations over here. Check out my Patreon and merch linked below if you want to help support the channel, and thanks for watching ARTV.